question. Thank you for the presentation, although a bit confusing. But may I ask what the relevance is to the armed forces community and why you gave that presentation?
Thank you very much. Well, it sounds like in a lot of your projects and operations, you're working with local authorities at first basis to sort of assist with your funding efforts, to assist to meet certain communities and that sort of thing. So I think it was important that you understand what's coming down the road and understand a little bit more about how a chief partner in your effort to reach veterans is going to be changing over the next 2 years. I think that's sort of my purpose for being here.
Charles Hyde, PCST Resolution. Two great talks, thank you very much indeed, but I'm actually going to ask you a question about the local authority, whereas my specialisation is mental health. What's going to happen to the balance sheets of existing authorities when they get moved into the unified authorities?
Excellent question. I am not an accountant, so I would not take any response I give as the word of law. However, my understanding is that essentially, when it comes to at least income from central government, they will essentially smush the balance sheets together. They will say that area receives that amount of money, that area receives that amount of money, and just sort of bolt them together.
What about the debts?
Great question, still being worked out.
Or not. Okay, any other questions?
No, it's just to add on really in terms of the connection between local authority and statutory services. It's equally important that the armed forces are still able to access the services, even though the LGR is coming into place. There is housing, there is mental health, there is obviously a lot of social care, and that will be an integral part of merging all the local authorities. At Norwich, and particularly South Norfolk here, we do a significant amount of work with the armed forces in terms of making sure that services are accessible and easy for them to access, as well as service provision. So hopefully the emergence of the LGR will support and continue to support the provision of statutory services.
Thank you for that. Okay, so I'm going to now hand back to Jonathan.
There are two.
Oh, sorry.
Sing us a song.
Hi, I'm Bob Garrett. I represent the East England Community Health and Care Trust, who we formed as of April. The covenant boards often sit with the councils. Has there been any thought about how that's going to impact? So Norfolk's getting 3. Currently it's with county council leave. How's that going to work? I mean, is there any thought at all being put into that? Because that's actually going to affect everyone in this room. About who funds those officers, who looks after it, who is running the boards?
Phenomenally good question. Bear in mind that the news about the new borders was, I think, announced the 28th of March, so we're talking a decision that is less than a month old. I would get in touch with your contacts within your local authorities to work that out. If they're with the counties, then absolutely speak to your counties and make sure that's on the top of the agenda when they're talking. Because they're currently, as we speak, they are drafting agendas of what matters, what's important, what should be on the top of the plate. So make sure that you are having those conversations with them so that they are aware that you are there and need to be sort of there on the priority list, would be my advice.
Can I just add to that, because I work at Suffolk County Council, been involved in the Covenant in Suffolk for many years, and lead the board and lead the partnership. Don't lead the board, but lead the partnership and support the board, should I say. But yeah, it's a big question. It's far too early to think about what we're going to propose, but there will be a number of options that we will have to sort of design and present to the forthcoming sort of transitional groups. I think our goal within the armed forces community is to make sure that the armed forces covenant and the partnerships is advocated for within those transitional plans, because there's a lot of other groups and partnerships that councils organise. We have a community safety partnership, we have a health and wellbeing board, and stuff like that. So with the new unitaries that come through, we've got to sort of, champion our respective groups, and to make sure they're not lost amongst the business as usual and all the restructures around healthcare and all the rest of it. So what I do is, just ask you, to just make sure you advocate and you engage your partnership board and your political systems to make sure that, the covenant is continually represented through that process. And there will be different models that will probably would appear, but effectively we just need to make sure that we've got the covenant. It's been around since 2012, and we mustn't lose it.
I think it's me. So I'm from a local authority. I'm not going to talk about LGR. I'm actually going to ask the mental health question about reservists. I noticed that you mentioned reservists. The reservists aren't often talked about, but they are actually part of the community with support. So on the basis it was on your slide about reservists, I wondered what level of support they were needing and what support they were actually getting from the services that they are reservists for and how that fitted in. So I don't know if you could just enlighten us a bit more on that, that would be helpful.
Sure. Okay. You can't hear me on that, can you?
Stop it, Ashley.
I'll stand because my voice will carry a bit easier. Thank you for the question. I actually thought I was going to get away without actually having to answer any questions there. But never mind. No, happy to answer. So, in terms of the support we offer reservists, it's no different to the support that we would offer veterans or those that are within 6 months of a discharge date. The difference being is that, obviously, if they are mobilised, Defence Medical Welfare Services have a duty of care. So the MOD should be supplying their mental health care if they are mobilised. There is sometimes a little bit of a back and forth, and having worked in DCMH myself, when I was the other side of the fence, we would be arguing for a non-mobilised reservist to be going to local services, whereas there are some situations that we find ourselves in, even if there's a non-mobilised reservist, we think actually this person does sound to us like this should be the duty of care for the MOD, and there is a little bit of a back and forth. But at the end of the day, we're not going to turn a non-mobilised reservist down at all. As if they can't get what they need from the MOD, we will provide that, and we are, that is part of our remit. So that's absolutely what we will do. I know that was a bit of a basic answer, but does that answer the question, or was there anything?
I just wanted to get a bit more understanding of how it kind of fitted in, because there was that crossover, and how we actually dealt with it. This reserves in my organisation, just a few, but and therefore we are there to support them as well. It's part of the covenant, it's part of what we do. So I just wanted where that conflict was working, and obviously you're doing that. So thank you.
Yeah, and I think the challenge from us, as I said when I was on the other side of the fence, is that a reservist might come to DCMH, but actually if they're moving around, or if they're only on ops for a month, or if they're going on exercise, actually you can't really provide mental health treatment when somebody's only there for 4 weeks. Often mental health care is about continuity, is about getting to know the person, is about building up a relationship. And so I think that's where Op Courage sits in a much better area for that reservist. So we still have, obviously, the understanding of military life that they need, but we can also be that bridge with the MOD. So often, if that person is to be mobilised, the MOD are going to perhaps want evidence about whether their mental health is in the right place, to look at their grading to see if that's, if they are safe enough as well to maybe be deployed or.
And I think it's just a point to make, if I may just point this, and with me anyhow, is that when they do get mobilised, of course we have to remember their families are still here with us, and they're part of our support as well. So,
yeah, absolutely, and that's certainly one of the challenges, isn't it, about the definition of the armed forces community, because not everybody identifies that. We know even not everybody identifies with the word veteran. We know that that's a challenge for women sometimes to identify themselves as a veteran, but also for a lot of men, it does carry with it a bit of an old-fashioned kind of view sometimes, doesn't it? And so I think that's what's been curious for me here today as well, is that we're all focusing on, we have to identify every veteran, but I would argue not every veteran wants to be identified as well. So it's about whatever works for that individual, isn't it? So we almost want to make it known that we're here, and that we're ready, we're here to help people, but also without trying to separate the armed forces community from the rest of the community. And I'm talking, sorry, I'm taking it on a tangent, but just something that I think might be an interesting question for us all to hold, really. And I'm not saying this as a as the lead of Op Courage, so don't quote me on that, otherwise I might lose my job. But something that I think is really interesting for us to consider is, obviously we see a lot in Op Courage difficulties for people that are leaving service and are trying to transition into civilian life, trying to transition into working in a civilian company, which can be very, very big culture shock, losing your identity, losing your peer group, losing your sense of purpose. And so we see a lot about how we want to support the person to integrate. But an interesting thing to consider is that what all of us are doing is maintaining a separation and a segregation. We're maintaining that otherness by saying, you need special services because nobody else understands you. And I'm not saying that that's right or wrong, I guess when we're thinking about collaboration is, are there also opportunities for us to collaborate with civilians? Are there also civilian services? Because if we continue this sense of otherness as well, are we ever going to get to where we want to be, which is that everybody understands everybody? You know, so just a question to hold up that I think is quite interesting. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So,
Liana, can I ask you two very, very, very brief questions?
Yeah, sure.
Can I ask you where you get your funding from? Is it the NHS or the Armed Forces Government?
So it's central funding from NHS England.
Okay.
So it's Office of Veterans Affairs. It's a NHS.
NHS funded. So
Yeah.
do all your very good statistics, are they held within NHS statistics also?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's it.
Ah, okay. That was easy. Thanks.
so